We think that just because someone makes a whole lot of money in terms of like revenue and sales, that they must have the whole financial pillar figured out.
No,
It's not true.
it's
It's
not true. Says
messy.
the CFO. I'm just telling y'all now, it's not true.
And look, I'm not the CFO, so I'm not like telling people how to run their finances from that perspective. I look at their finances from a different lens because it's showing me what I need to know so I can do the work I do inside the company. Because if the finances are messy, there's problems there, but it's information that gives me details and insight and facts that help me do what I do better. But I'm not doing what you're doing with people at all. But so I think that the people who are not making like millions of dollars, you gotta get like eradicate this thought that people making a lot of money have the money stuff figured out.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Seasons 2 of Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream life they deserve and not be a slave to their business. And we do that through CFO services. Now, y'all, this is season 2. This is the road to being $1 million agency. So, season 1, we had great guests, but I told you I wanted to step it up. So I had to put out some feelers. I had to go do some research. I had to go say, who are some of these great people that some of the people I know follow and know? And so, some people are really quiet, like really subtle, really humble. But you can tell they're doing their thing because when you see their videos, you like, man, they're making a great point. So, one of those people was the young lady that I have here to join us on today, Miss Megan. And, I was just like, man, I think we need to have her on. So we reached out to her and she was like, you know what? I'm down. Let's do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let her introduce herself. Megan, just tell the people name of the company, how long you've been at it, and we'll jump into it.
Amazing. Well, thank you for the warm welcome. I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to see where our conversation goes today. I know it's going to be super valuable. So, like Cameron said, my name is Megan Huber, and I have been in the coaching and online education space primarily for the last 13 years. I have started a couple of different businesses, all in the coaching or consulting space in the last 13 years. And I say I've started a couple of different businesses because part of the uniqueness of my story and my journey is that in 2013, 2014, I had been in business for about 3 years, and I left my first business to work full time for a mentor of mine who I helped build her close to $10 million coaching empire. I believe when I started working with her, she was doing low millions, but I was basically the person, kind of like the brain behind the scenes who was creating all the content, running all the programs. And I mean, she went from low millions to 10 million in like 3 years while I was there with her. So then I left, I came back into my business, and I've been a business strategic advisor to 6 to 8 figure coaching companies. Typically, we work really well with coaching companies who have grown very rapidly over a short period of time. And they went from maybe a few hundred clients to many multiples of thousands of clients. And their teams have grown like warp speed. And they get to that place and it's messy, it's chaotic, and clients are just leaving right out the back door. So my specialty in the coaching and education space has largely been program development, fulfillment of programs, client experience. How do we retain our clients for a longer period of time? How do we basically utilize our client base to generate a lot of referrals coming in? Because that's ultimately what leads to profitability and sustainability in any company, whether you're a coaching company or a consulting company or any company. We don't want to just constantly only be focusing on lead and client acquisition, because if we've got holes at the bottom of that bucket, those clients are just leaving right out the back door, and then you got to go back out and find new ones. You kind of never become profitable when you're operating that way. So that's been my specialty for the last few years.
There you go. See, I told y'all. See? Beast. I mean, all right. Now, mind you, I'm taking my notes again. So we got started multiple businesses. I'm going to start there because y'all know running one successful one is hard. So she said multiple. Help someone go from low millions to tens of millions, advisor currently to multiple 6 to 8 figure companies. And part of her big strategy and her offering is, how do we retain self? We're not going to go the normal route because I feel like there's a lot right there to digest. So
Cool.
let's start with, okay, balancing multiple businesses. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, it takes all the effort I have to grow one, not just to 6 figures, but to either multi 6 figures or get really close to the $1 million mark. You're saying that you're doing this with multiple of your companies. What is that balance like in order to give each one the proper attention that it deserves?
Yeah. So this is, I think, one of the hardest things to do. And I have not done it successfully every single time either. Like, let's not sugarcoat it and make it sound
Okay.
like any of us just come out of the gate and everything we touch the first time we do it, it works.
Mm-hmm.
So I think where I'd like to go with that question is first talk about some of the lessons that I learned when it didn't work very well. And I
Okay.
think that do I believe that people can have multiple businesses? 100%. Absolutely. I think it is incredibly possible. I think that the most important thing is timing. I was actually asked this question the other day on a call. I was training inside of one of my clients has a multi 7 figure business, and I do some business training inside of her program. And one of the ladies came up. She had a question, and that was her question. She told me about her current business and where it was at, and then she said, "And I want to start this other business over here." And she told me about that business. My concern with where her existing business is that her existing business is not even making $100,000 yet. Now she has another venture that does fantastic, so it's not her only thing that she's got going on. But my concern is if your existing business isn't quite yet hitting, maybe it's knocking on the door of 100K a year, but more than likely you're not ready to start a second business because the learning curve is insane. And if your business over here is not yet making 100K a year, I would even say if you're in low 6 figures, probably even high 6 figures, if you have not crossed into 7 figures yet, it's probably not the greatest idea. Although I don't want to shoot down anybody's dreams because I do believe there are people out there who could make that work. And so what I shared with this person, I didn't want to say no, don't go start a second business, or yes, go start a second business, because it shouldn't be my idea for someone else. She should be very clear on whether or not it's the right timing for her. And one of the questions I asked her, Cameron, was, are you in a position where this business over here that's not quite making 100K yet, does it have to work financially for you? And she was like, yeah, it has to work financially for me. So in my mind, as a strategist, I'm thinking if this one has to work over here, you're probably not ready to start a second business, because then you're going to be splitting your energy. And I said, the question that I want you to sit with is, go write on a sheet of paper, how can I make a second business work right now? And the answer will be revealed to you. So I think that we have to become really good at self evaluating ourselves, our bandwidth, our time, our skills, our know how, the season that we're in, the season that our business is in, the season that our life is in. And does it make sense to start a second thing? So that's like, I think, my best piece of advice for anybody who's thinking about it and wondering when is the right time to do it. Only you really know that. The second thing I would really look at is what really is your skill set. I will be the first one to tell you, I do not possess every single skill necessary to grow a business by myself. I know what I'm really good at, but I also know what I lack. And I don't know if there's
Okay.
anybody on the planet who has like every single skill that you need, like locked and loaded to build a business to like millions of dollars. Like, we all need help, or business partners or collaborators or team or smarter people than us in certain categories. So if you're someone who isn't great, let's say, at marketing and sales, then starting a second business is probably going to be a struggle for you, because to get it off the ground and get momentum, the first thing you should be focusing on is making money. So if you don't have the time or bandwidth to just focus on revenue generating activities to get that thing off the ground, then it's probably not the right time. So, again, I just think you've got to evaluate that. You've got to know, where am I at in life and business? Do I have the bandwidth? Because if you're going to start a second baby, you've this was the other thing, like your ego really takes a hit. And this was what I experienced because I had been very successful in business, in the business that I had done for quite a while. But then you think in your mind, it's weird. It's like you think it's going to be just as easy and just as fast and just as amazing, just as quickly when you start the second business. But guess what? You have to start over from scratch. You've got to be a beginner all over again. You have to start at zero, which means you have to treat that business just like you treated the first business that you started. And you've got to go back to bare bones basics, and you've got to kind of struggle through the hardships of the beginning of that. It doesn't necessarily match your existing business super, super fast. And that can really bruise the ego, which is why I think a lot of people can't make it work because it's such an ego bruiser that you've got to actually do hard work all over again to get the second business to get up and running. I hope that's helpful.
That was really real. Okay, there's a lot right there. Being self-aware. If you don't already have time in your current schedule with business one to do revenue generating activities, how are you going to carve out that time to do it all over again from scratch with no momentum for business two? It's a
Yeah.
pride hit. I mean, I think that's a legit answer. I mean, you
Yeah.
would know because you work with them. So what? I agree.
Yeah. I mean, again, like the hardest part for me, it has been the ego bruise side, which is that's a great learning lesson as well. I mean, you want to talk about like personal growth and spiritual growth, it's that because in your head you are kind of having this conversation like I built this brand, I built this business, I built this audience, blah 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 blah. Why isn't this one taking off just as fast, or why isn't this one matching the other one as quickly as I want it to? So you really have to manage your mindset. Also, at least for me in the coaching space, and not everybody has this thought, but one of the things that I learned about just my thinking process and my belief systems one of the first times when I started a second business, when I was running another one, I was so afraid when I started it because I was like, my audience is going to be so confused. Number one.
Mhm.
The second thought was, my audience is going to think I'm just a broke joke. And that's why I have to start this second business. And so you
Oh,
really
boy.
learn a lot about your belief systems and what's running the show. And, if I go back and I look at if what's running the show is I'm going to confuse my audience because now I'm coming out with a second business and a second message and a second everything. And if I'm concerned about what they're going to think about me, whether they think I'm broke or they think I'm sleazy or they think I'm something else, if that's running the show, then you don't actually do the things that you're supposed to do to steward a business so it can actually grow. So then it sort of like grows really slow. And then you're working really, really hard. And now you're working really hard in two. Then, it's a vicious cycle. And then you think, well, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. It's a very vicious cycle. Um, so, I just want to share some of the realities of what goes on in our heads as entrepreneurs. And none of us are immune to those thoughts. And you can also, when you recognize, okay, well, that's a pattern now, I get it. Maybe I should be thinking a different thought because if I'm thinking I'm going to confuse my audience, I'm never going to be able to grow multiple businesses. It's just not going to work, you know?
Okay, so that made me, now I just wrote this down. So, because you said that, do you think it's possible to have two types of branding, two types of messaging, and all of the double, and still get the job done? Because I can understand that. Because, like, for example, in our case, we've created a course for accountants, and then, of course, we help agencies with their CFO stuff. Two completely opposite directions. And I know exactly what you mean about, like, okay, how do I put time here? I'm going to grow this. Well, if I post about it, does that confuse my current, audience about, oh, I thought he helps us. What is he doing the court? Like, so I get it. Do you think it's possible to have two active brands that go in completely opposite directions? Or is it one of those things like people do it, but
I mean, look, I believe anything is possible. I'll tell you what I think is easier. I think
okay.
what is, and maybe easier isn't the right word, maybe more simple What is more simple, and this is what I've also learned, is look at your existing audience, your existing skills that you've built in your initial business, or then the business has been here the longest, and how can it be transferable? And I'll use myself as an example. So I've been in the coaching and online space for 13 years in a couple of different capacities. I said I also was the director of client success for someone else's business in between my business coaching companies. And I have grown my business predominantly online using the power of social media platforms, whether that's creating content that's written or a podcast, Facebook groups. I largely grew my business on Facebook for 13 years. Did a little bit of networking in the in-person networking in the early days. The power of video on social media, I've really utilized that. So I know how to use online platforms and social media to grow an audience, to communicate with people, to acquire leads, to close sales. I know that process. I understand it.
Right.
So I recently have added another stream of income and have started an affiliate business. Now I'll tell you what I've done there. All those skills that I've built in the coaching business are transferable to affiliate marketing, because guess what I'm doing? I'm using social media, I'm using content, I'm posting, I have a lead acquisition process, I have a funnel built. It's all the same skills. My message over there is I'm speaking to the same people that I'm speaking to on the coaching side. And here's why I did that. Because if let's just use simple numbers, if you had 100 people in your audience, only about 3% of those people are ready to buy from you when you're actively selling your thing. So you've
Right.
got this other 97% of people who may become a client in the future. But out of that 97%, about 30 to 40% are probably never, ever, ever going to buy what you're selling them. They're never going to buy my coaching. They're never going to buy my consulting. They're never going to buy anything I'm going to ever sell on the coaching and consulting side. But guess what? Maybe they want to start an affiliate business. Maybe they want to have a more passive stream of income. Maybe they want to somehow be connected to me, but they're never going to hire me to be their business coach. So I thought very strategically about that. I'm like, what can I get up and running like easily and quickly and consistently, because I can transfer the skills? What kind of business can I have that my existing audience might actually want? And then what's the marketing messaging and the positioning for those people? Which for me, the angle I'm going is start a second stream of income that's passive, because if you're in coaching, it's all active. And I don't care if you're even working with groups of people, it's active income. Let's be real about it. And at some point you kind of cap out unless you get into digital products and other things. So that's my angle. But I'll tell you something else I did. I have created a completely separate Instagram account. So I'm not using my existing accounts that my existing audience currently has access to. And I won't do that for a little while. I'll do it when I'm ready to, and I have a certain degree of success over here. So that's one of the ways. So you also asked, like, how do you balance that? I'm going to be honest. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I mean, on the affiliate side, it's simple. It's literally, I mean, my funnel's built. So you're basically creating content every day, and you're creating Instagram reels, and you're engaging with people. I mean, and you're having conversations with people. That's really all it is. But you have to put in the work, and the key is consistency. Like, again, on social media, you miss one day and the algorithm hates you the next day. So it really is a consistency play. And if you've got the I don't know, if you've got the grit and you've got the perseverance to be consistent, no matter what is going on in your life, and no matter what your life environment or life circumstances look like, because let's be real, that's what actually takes us out of the game. Because, like, oh, we just got a new puppy on Saturday. My kitchen is a
Oh,
mess. My kitchen's dirty. I've got a 13-year-old. She's all, we have so much going on right now. But guess what? If I'm serious, I have to be consistent. So it's possible, it's doable. It's not super easy when it's just you, yourself, and I, because it's time, right? It's time. So as you get things to a certain place, you got to bring folks on. I mean, I talked to somebody the other day. I'm like, hey, I know how to create my content. I can do it fast, but I need somebody else to repurpose it for me because that would probably save me 3 hours a day, every single day. If I just, with the new thing that I'm doing, it would save me so much time. Right. So then you leverage other people and their skills. Once you get things like, I know what to do that works now. Now I need to plug somebody in so they do that. But I had to figure out how to make it work first. Does that make sense?
Right. It does. Okay. All right. She just gave you the roadmap. She broke it down for you. Okay. Now, another thing I got right here in my notes that you said. So you said help, or no, the advisor to 6 to 8 figure company. So we got to talk finances. So let's talk from the, I guess we'll say, perspective of money thinking. You talked about stewardship. So I already know what kind of wave you on. So shout out to that.
Yes.
Because we represent Jesus here.
Yes.
But when you start talking about taking people from 6 figures to 7 or 7 to 8, now we're talking about a mindset deal. Can you talk about maybe some common, I don't know if you want to say principles or mindsets of people who clearly this person has an abundance mindset. They grew up around money. So to say, hey, this is the goal, it's not a big deal. And then clearly some of these clients, I knew that they had struggled from, whatever they shared. And it was a hard thing to try to get them to flip that switch because they grew up thinking to get money is hard or I never had it. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that for us?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have worked from all the way from, so over the last 13 years, I've worked with people who have no business at all, and they haven't made any money yet in their business, to people who are making 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, low 7 figures, high 7 figures. And one of our consulting clients has a company that does about 40 million a year, which they did in 3 years. So you want to talk about like fast,
Wow.
crazy growth. Like it's really fast. So
That's
that's
like
like,
losing money right there.
yeah, 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 yeah. So there's a really big spectrum there. Now, I'm going to be really frank. Most people, no matter what level they're at, that I've noticed, have money problems. And it's not the
Oh,
same for
here we go.
everybody.
Here we
But
go.
even at, even at 7, 8 figures. So on the consulting, I've got a business partner as well. I do multiple things. And my business partner and I go into a company, and we'll take the one that's 40 million as an example. And before we like really get going with them on like fixing things, we start with an audit. And the way that we know there's like money stuff going on is if they won't give us their financials, if
Oh,
they kind of hem and haw around on that. So again, I know I'm circling around. I'll answer your actual question in just a second, but I do just want to give a plug for retention and referrals. When your company gets to 7 and 8 figures, it you will be breaking even or losing money. I see it everywhere I go. People are either breaking even or they're losing money because they have such low retention and their clients are not bringing in referrals. I mean, we've seen companies have retention as low as 2%. So I don't care if you're making $2 million a year or 10 million or 40 million. If your retention is 2% and almost none of your clients are bringing in referrals, you're not making money. You are spending gobs of money on team and you're spending gobs of money on marketing, usually paid advertising. But those dollars you're spending turn into clients and they're just leaving, which creates a whole lot of money stuff. What I see when people do get to the level of making 7, even low 7 figures, because I have a client right now, they've got 2 businesses. They have a network marketing business, they have a coaching business. They both make millions. They're at the tippy top of their network marketing. They're like stars in the network marketing space, very well known in the coaching space as well. And then I've got clients who are making 8 figures. The pressure, the pressure
mm,
to
yeah.
continue making money, to continue making more money, and to pay for all the people that you now have to pay and pay for all of your obligations, the pressure is almost too much. That's what I see at that level. It's the pressure because they all still have mindset stuff around money, but it shifts. It's like either I have to prove or now I have to take care of this family, because family is involved with the business, or there's pressure to keep it up because now I have team, I have all these things. So that's the thing I see at that level. At the lower levels, I think we believe, because I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up in a very small southern town in North Carolina. So shout out to my southern buddy here. You're in Atlanta. I'm from
That's right.
Pittsburgh, Carolina. Pittsburgh. It's small. There were 2,000 people who lived there when I grew up there. We had like 2 stoplights. We had a Hardee's. We had a Piggly Wiggly. It's a little bigger now because big companies have come in and bought up all the land around it. So it's changed quite a bit since I grew up there. My parents still live in the house I grew up in. But I grew up very small town. My dad was a lineman for the electric company. It was CP&L, now Progress Energy, now Duke. But he was a guy climbing poles. He worked there for 48 years. My mom was a
Ooh.
teacher. So I didn't grow up with lavish anything. And I
Right.
didn't grow up around entrepreneurs either. Now we were not poor. We were not poor. We were very middle class people. We had things, we always ate. Like there was never like this big money struggle in my house, but we weren't going on cruises and flying anywhere. Like we weren't doing any of that at all.
Right.
Um and I think some of us who grew up that way, we think it's a worthiness and a deservability. Like, I'm not worthy of the money. Only these people over
Ooh.
here are worthy of the money, or only these people over here deserve the money.
How
I
does
grew
that
up,
affect their performance then?
yes, yeah. Um, I also grew up with one of my parents would always kind of criticize people who had money. Like they just want to showboat. Or
Yeah.
I never really heard the word greedy, but it was more like, I want to show off. So then if your own parent is demonstrating to you people who have money just want to show it off, then
They're
in
not
your mind,
unaligned
when
with
you
their
become
money.
an adult, you're like, is my parent or everybody out there just going to think I'm here to show it off? But that's not my heart. That's not me. So
Right.
subconsciously, why would you make more money if what's subconsciously running the show is, I don't want anybody to think I'm showing off. I don't want anybody to think that's the reason why I make money. So then, but you don't know that's what's going on until you do the work around it. Um,
Correct.
so we all have something running our show internally. And I think it's so important as adults that we figure out what that is. And it's not always around money. I mean, I'll tell you really quick, Cameron, because I think this is just so helpful when we talk about what each of us like goes through and what we find out about ourselves. I work with a mindset coach, and for a while my income, it like grew really really fast and it was amazing and it's great, all the things, but it got stuck at that level. And then after a while you're like, okay, it's not a tactic, it's not a strategy that has me stuck at that financial level. It's got to be internal. And so one of the things that we uncovered is that something that had run the show for me since childhood was, it's dangerous and high risk for me to really put myself out there and say what I want to say and be who I want to be and build the thing bigger, better, blah, 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 blah. Because internally, I had this idea that people are going to judge my character, and it feels too dangerous and risky if people think something about my character, my heart, or my soul that isn't really the truth. Like if somebody thinks something bad
Mm.
or wrong about me, because I also have a pretty strong like moral ethical compass, but that's just a thought. That's just a thought. Like I can change that thought and everything opens up. But it took me a while to like peel back the layers to even be able to pinpoint, oh my gosh, that's what it is. Because you can have all these desires to have more and be more and have bigger businesses. But if what's running the show is, oh, but it's too high risk to put yourself out there, but you have to put yourself out there more to grow more. And so those are conflicting ideas. And if we
Yep.
have conflicting ideas internally and externally, we can say all day long we want to make more money. We can say all day long we want to have multiple businesses. But if the internal is conflicting with that, guess what wins? The internal subconscious is what wins. And so I think that's such important work for all of us to be doing is figure out what that is and give it to God. Like, give that to God. Like, God can take that burden away from you. Give it to him. We still need to be aware for sure. Like, we still got to do the work, but give it to him and then like let's go, because it really is our birthright. Like, we have an inheritance that is meant for us. And if we believe that, we're going to operate and we're going to think and we're going to behave and we're going to speak and we're going to be in a different way, because it's our birthright to have abundance and to have finances, because God's going to use us and that money to come to us and through us. Because what do we get to do with the money when we have it? That's really where we get to make incredible change. And that's the biggest, Cameron, I think that's like, I'll stop yapping in just a second. That's the biggest like mindset shift for me, is that the money isn't mine for me to have earthly things that I want to have. It's the tool. It's not the goal. It's a tool for me to do the work God's asking me to do. And where does he want me to channel that money? To his children, for his work here. And when I got that and really understood that, that's when things really shifted for me, because it became not about me and what people think about me. It became about God and what I'm doing for him here. That was the biggest game changer for me. We just went to
Man, she done preached the whole message. Okay, so much right there. I think I got two takeaways. So one, to your point about your internal not matching your external. I know me and my wife talk about that all the time, because you get to a point where you're like, well, I got faith that God is going to do ABC, whatever that is, right? But if internally you're always negative self-talking, like people try to say, oh, it's not that serious. But guys, what we tell ourselves all the time, what we look in the mirror and come into agreement with, is so important. To your point, you can't say, well, now I'm finna tell myself, because this was me, oh, I can't make $1 million, right? Whatever number you want to put in there. Well, yeah, if that's what you deep down believe, you're never going to get there. You're only going to get so far. And like you said, you're going to get stuck, because you're going to say, for whatever reasons, like you said, it's my parents always talk badly about people who made money. Or I think, there's even a spiritual component there. Some people think like, oh, if I get paid a lot of money, that's against the Bible, which is not, because how are we going to be the hands and feet? I'm just saying. So there's so many components there. And I think you really hit the nail on the head about, you have to get rid of that junk. You have to do the work, be self-aware, spend time in prayer or reflection or even in counseling to undo that negative subconscious thinking. And then you open up your mindset. That's why it's important to be around people like Megan who, hey, I get it, but we can go bigger. There's other opportunities out there. You can do. That was the biggest change, I would say, for me at the end of last year. I was talking to one of my coaches. You know Karen, right? Karen Height.
What's the last name?
Height. You may not. I feel
I
like
don't
you
think
should.
so.
It don't matter. I'm gonna connect you after.
Okay.
But that's one of the things we were talking about. And we were saying how, sales, because then there's a whole thing around sales too, right? Especially agency. Some people are like, man, I hate sales, because they feel like I've been sold to in such a nasty way. That must be what I have to do. And I remember her telling me, like, Cameron, no, sales is just an opportunity to serve other people. If you know that you have something that can help them, you would be doing them a disservice to leave them in the same state they're in, when what you do and were created to do and born to do can help them. And I was like, dang, that was such a major shift for me, because I was like, man, I feel like I'm trying to get over on people. I just want to help you, but I technically got to ask you for money because, got to pay the bill. So there was a lot of good stuff right there. Okay, let's keep going. Now, working with multiple clients, you talked about, and I got to go back to it because this is my area. You talked about those financials and how you ask certain questions and you like, uh-oh, do we got some problems? Let's go back there. On an average scale, like average percentage, when clients are coming to you, how concerning are financials? Because I'm sure you know how to read them for you to make this statement. So, like, is it 30% of them typically have pretty decent financials so we know where to start our plan of attack? Or is it like we got to get all this fixed and cleared up first, and then we get to do the attack later?
Yeah. Oof. Gosh. I mean,
That was probably a hard question. I'm
that
sorry.
is. I I mean, at best 50-50,
Okay.
but it's probably worse. It's probably more like 70-30, like 70% don't, 30% do. Now, that doesn't mean that their finances, that 70%, like all their finances are in the gutter. Doesn't
Right.
necessarily mean that. And
Right.
look, you're the financial expert. I'm not the financial expert, but they are making decisions that don't make
Not based on
sense,
the.
right?
Yeah.
So they're making decisions that don't make sense from a financial stewardship place.
Yeah.
Like you again, this was one of the biggest lessons I had to learn because I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial household, and nobody teaches you this like before you become an entrepreneur either. But a lot
Right.
of people, and again, we think, I just really want to stress this. We think that just because someone makes a whole lot of money in terms of like revenue and sales, that they must have the whole financial pillar figured out.
No,
It's not true.
it's
It's
not true. Says
messy.
the CFO. I'm just telling y'all now, it's not true.
And look, I'm not the CFO, so I'm not like telling people how to run their finances from that perspective. I look at their finances from a different lens because it's showing me what I need to know so I can do the work I do inside the company. Because if the finances are messy, there's problems there, but it's information that gives me details and insight and facts that help me do what I do better. But I'm not doing what you're doing with people at all. But so I think that the people who are not making like millions of dollars, you gotta get like eradicate this thought that people making a lot of money had the money stuff figured out. Now, what we see a lot of people doing, I think, prior to making 7-8 figures, but I still see this at that level for sure. Predominantly how, and this is how I was making decisions back in the day as well, we'd make decisions just based on how much money is in our bank account. So it's
Yeah.
like, can I afford this program? Or can I afford this team member? Or can I go buy this? Well, let's just go open up Wells Fargo and let a Bank of America. Let's just go check to see what my numbers are in my account. Oh yeah, I have enough money. Let's go do it. Now, that if you make decisions that way on your way to 7 figures, when you get to 7 figures, you're in heaps of trouble financially because you cannot
Yeah.
make decisions like that financially. You cannot
No.
do it. And again, it's those internal belief systems that are running the show. So, if you can't project your finances in the future, if you can't, pay your taxes quarterly, if you are, having to move around like credit cards and blah blah blah, this and that just to pay your team every single month, like you should have like some warning bells go off. And I think one of the most important places to look is the mindset piece. Like I'll tell you also, I've worked with a financial coach. This was quite a few years ago. I had like a certain amount of credit card debt that had just been there, honestly, since I had gotten out of college. And I'm 41 now. And it had just sort of like slowly continued to go up. And I just sort of like let it hang out there. And I was like, you know what? Like I'm in my 40s. Like this has been here since I was in my early 20s. Like it's probably time to do something about that because just saying I want it to go away, it wasn't doing anything. I'm like, I'm going to hire a financial coach. And she was not someone who did anything with mindset, nothing with mindset. It was just the numbers and spreadsheets and projections and this and that and blah, 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 so I could pay it off. It was such a mind screw up for me. And because my issue was less about the facts and figures, my issue was more about the mindset that was creating the financial issue. And so I
Yep.
think it's so powerful that any of us who are helping people in business categories, one of the biggest reasons why our stuff isn't working or it's broken or we see patterns over and over and over again, whether it's in marketing, sales, finances, client delivery, anywhere, team, anywhere. We've also, and it's not like you have to do one, then do the other. It's you do it at the same time. It's mindset, it's belief systems, it's perceptions, it's the filter that we see the world and ourselves through. That's creating the problem because that filter is what's driving our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors, and our ability to make decisions. And it's that then is creating the outcome. So it's a both and. It's this internal mindset stuff. We got to change our perspective around money or ourselves or the purpose of money or what money means or how to handle money and all that stuff. And we've got to get the finances in order just from like a strategic, tactical perspective as well.
Okay. Y'all, you see when she start talking, there's a lot of gems she dropping in there. Okay, I wrote this down. You said don't just live making decisions off what's in the bank because that's going to get you in trouble. And we see that when we take clients, they're like, I just don't understand why, I make 50 grand a month or whatever the number is. But it's like it's not in my bank account at the end of the month. And to your point, it's because I'm just looking at what's in there, making my choice. Versus the clients who we are doing those projections for, and we have the graphs and all the fancy percentages, they're like, okay, I know that slow season is coming in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Let me start storing up, or let me kind of back down or change hours for the team, etc. We tell people all the time, looking forward is so important, or else to your point, you just live your life. And that's okay, but that's not what's best for business. So I think, and we tell people all the time too, you said my other favorite thing, the numbers tell a story. People are always like, Cameron, how do you get all this stuff just from looking at numbers? Because I'm like, it's just telling you human behavior. If you make 50, yeah, you spend 30K, so there's 20 left over. Well, you don't see the money in your account because you took distributions of 18. Mm-hmm. Then it's like, well, no, I didn't take 18. I'm like,
well, what else? Here's what else we do too, Cameron, because look, at the end of the day, most of us did not grow up in a wealthy household. So most of us didn't come from money. The majority of people in the United States did not come from money. And I did this a little bit, never like extravagantly, but I certainly have seen it a lot. But there is like almost like this place inside of us that when we finally start making real money, it's like in your head, it's like, now I can finally have things that I want. Yeah. Like now I can do the shopping. Now I can have the shoes. Now I can have the house.
You go on vacation.
I can go on vacation. And I bet what you see a lot, because I've seen this for 13 years, is people, they start making more money in the business and they increase their lifestyle at the same pace.
That's exactly what I see. Because to your point, oh man, well, hey, we wanted to go on vacation, or hey, we needed these improvements on the house. And I'm just like, well, I get that, but but then, you can't say, let me rephrase that. They give me the power to say, like, you can't do it, but in being honest and understanding human behavior, if you never made 50K in a month before, I'm not necessarily mad that you're enjoying it. You just need to be aware, hey, next month, you're not going to have 20. You're only going to start out with 2K in the bank because you spent 18. So it is a very balanced, very hard balancing act to really coach up. And then that's my other thing. Don't even get me started on how I think the accounting industry is just failing clients, because we're not doing the hard work to give the value, to explain these numbers and the stories and what it means. We like to just send you the report, and then all the clients, oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, right. I would say that's my biggest complaint about my accountant. And I want to switch accountant.
You know what? You can tell the world. Tell us about your.
My husband all the time. I'm like, because I'm from the coaching world. So I have this expectation now, like, you're going to do more than just like hand over, like just do do the minimum. And I'm like, but I want to understand this, but I want you to guide me. I want you to kind of coach me. I want you to tell me like what's up ahead, there's zero of that. And I'm like, then what's the value? Because I actually know how to do accounting. I took it. My mom was an accounting teacher. I took a lot of it in college. Like, I love a spreadsheet and numbers. I could do my own taxes. I can do my own.
You know why? I can answer this one. Because we were told that telling you that, like, these are office supplies, that's value. And I'm like, that's not value. Value is saying, hey, you told me you wanted to hire somebody in Q2. hey, you only make 10K net income. You told me their salary's going to be 6K. That's going to bring you down to a super close margin. I think we need to wait till you get that to 15 or 20 grand. And then I'll tell you, go ahead. I know it may be harder, but let that be some inspiration to help you to hit those sales goals. But we don't do that. And I have to tell people all the time, especially on discovery calls, hey, there are levels, just like there's levels to any other coaching or any other business or marketing strategies. Like there's the bare minimum bookkeeper. They're great at literally, these are office supplies. Then there's an accountant who knows a little of everything. Then there's your CFO style where there's all the strategy. And for whatever reason, people think they're going to get all that strategy for 250 a month. And I'm like, that's impossible. They don't even have the skill set, or they're not even niched down about your business enough to even conceive. I literally had a guy tell me that the other day. They were like, you know that thing you just told me? My accountant would never tell me that. I'm like, why
Yeah.
not? Well, because they don't specialize in marketing agencies, and I just think they don't do that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Sounds like either you need to go shopping or you need to have a deeper conversation and pay them more money so maybe they can. I don't know.
Right.
Okay. Dang it. This is good. We only got 7 minutes. Okay. Let's go rapid fire. We went off on a whole tangent about your minds, which is super important.
We went
Your
rogue.
mindset, your perspective about money matters because, and she's telling you now, remember, because y'all know I like to hype my people up. She's telling you this, not only having made the money herself, having multiple businesses herself, but dealing with multiple clients who are doing these same things. So these are commonalities she's seeing. This is not just a one off or only two people. She's seeing this across the board after doing this for over 13 years. So we want you guys to understand this because we're trying to help you to take some skips, past those speed bumps. Start working on those internal beliefs now, because that may be why you're not at the $1 million mark. That may be why you're capped at 1 million and can't seem to get to your 2 or your 3. But we digress. Let's go rapid fire on these. These are kind of the fun questions that some people like to laugh at, but they think are really fun. So you talked about Bay. When you started on your own, what did Bay say? You said, babe, I think I'm going to get into this coaching thing. They say,
Why did you quit your teaching job?
come on, man. You supposed to be supportive. You supposed to give me a hug and say, let's do it. I believe in you.
Now he's
He
like
talks.
this. It's been 13 years, but we had our daughter 13 years ago. I left the classroom. I was a high school teacher and had no financial plan. He's like, you do realize you have no financial plan? I'm like, I'll figure it out. He's like, and you quit your job with no financial plan. Why? Yeah.
13 years later.
Yes.
Hey!
It was worth
That's
it. Right?
hilarious. Okay. Best investment that's giving you the best ROI today.
Oh, the best
Yeah.
investment was when I left the job that I had working for my mentor and we
Uh-huh.
grew her company. The guy that I hired in January of 2017, when I came back into my business, I worked with him for 4 years. And it's Adam Urbanski. He has a program called Rev Up Your Revenue Intensive, and it's a 90-day program. It's just focused on making as much money as you can. It's the best thing I ever did to jumpstart. And then I continued to work with him for 4 years. It's the best investment.
There you go.
It's had the greatest return.
I love it. Okay. What are some things you do to connect with Babe and the 13-year-old throughout the week to kind of keep that balance?
So my husband is a high performance coach. We both work out of the home. So there are moments throughout the day, like we cook all of our meals together. We work out together. So we work out together. We cook breakfast together. Yeah, that's why I have a messy kitchen, because we literally make fresh meals 3 times a
I'll
day.
always blame the husband for the kitchen not being clean. That's messed up. That's messed up.
So, we connect that way. And our daughter's 13. She walks into my office. My door's right over there. As soon as my husband picks her up, she comes in here as soon as she walks in the door, and we connect for 5-10 minutes. And that's, what we do
There
on a
you
daily
go.
basis.
There you go. There you go. All right. If you could go back in time, knowing every single thing you know present day, and you had like 5 minutes to talk to your college and high school self, you go back and tell them what?
Oh
Mm,
gosh.
yeah.
Um, I would tell I would tell her to pray a lot more. To pray a lot
Mm,
more because the answers come to you through prayer. I would also say to think and play, ask and build way bigger than you are. Like play bigger, ask bigger, do bigger, be bigger, like just bigger. Uh and be consistent. I would say consistency is probably the biggest lesson that I have learned as an entrepreneur because if you're not consistent, it's the killer. If you're consistent, you can do anything.
mm. All right, rolling right into that one. What has being a business owner taught you about yourself as a person?
Well, I think this whole conversation has really shared that. It's shown me my limiting beliefs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's shown me my limiting beliefs, but limiting beliefs that I created and I can see the patterns of from like the age of 5 years old. And so it's really showing you what's possible when you are aware of those limiting beliefs and then you practice self mastery around your emotions. I'd say like probably the biggest the biggest thing it's honestly taught me self-mastery around my emotions and not acting on my emotions. That's probably been the biggest practice and learning on a daily basis. I'm still
Okay.
practicing.
Top two or three things that you do that contribute to your success. Could be daily.
Um
You
this
said
is
something about working out.
Yeah, I was going to start with like, it's so simple, but it is consistently moving your body and being very physically active because it helps your brain function. The other thing that's so simple, it's all about the fuel. It's working out, it's drinking enough water because I'm telling you, if you only drink like 2 glasses of water a day, you are not thinking clearly and you are not as creative as you could be. And also eating enough food in a day, eating enough food, but high protein because the high protein is what's going to fuel the body and fuel your brain. So those three things.
Okay. And then lastly, which one did I miss? How has your definition of success changed from when you started 13 years ago till now?
Uh, it's not a destination or an outcome or an end goal. It's a daily process. So if I am doing it, I believe God has called me to do, and I'm obedient to that, that to me is success.
There you go. Okay. This is your time. I wish we had more, but I know you got to go save the world. So this is your time. Tell the people again. Name a business, who you serve, and how can they get in touch with you? Because they may be like, you know what, Megan's a powerhouse. I need somebody like that who's going to challenge me and help me get to the next point with my marketing agency or sales or whatever the case. So how do they get in touch with you? Social media, websites, all that.
Yeah. So Megan Huber, business is structured freedom, and we work with mostly coaches, online creators, online educators who are anywhere from 6 to 8 figures. And you have reached capacity with your time, your energy, and your income capacity based on how you've structured your business and how it's running. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Megan J. Huber. Middle initial is J, so Megan J. Huber. And my website is meganjohnsonhuber.com.
There you have it. So you see the type of people we bring in on for season two. And I don't even know if we really dug into everything because I feel like she just came out the gate, just
Swinging.
swinging on it. So, Megan, it was a pleasure having you. I'm glad we were able to connect. Glad you decided to take time out to come on here. We appreciate you. Everybody, if you love this episode, share it. Maybe you have a business partner or a buddy or a client who you're like, they could really use this, talking about mindset and self-limiting beliefs and being willing to do the work to get that out the way so that their business can take off, or what it's like to balance multiple businesses and do it well, not struggle. Those are the type of people that you need to send this to, tag them, hit the like button, share all that fancy stuff. Again, she told you how to get in touch with her. Make sure you put the J in there just in case it's like 5 other ones, so you know who the right one is. But guys, we are so happy to have you. Megan, thank you again for coming. Any last words?
Play big and pray hard.
Play big and pray hard. There you go. All right, y'all. Until the next episode, we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care and be safe. See ya.